Hello everyone, I trust you are doing fine. This video is part of a series of web development tutorial that covers the basics of web development for the very beginner to an advanced web development. When it comes to web development, there are various programming languages that you can learn. But the question that usually arises is which program should you start with? To answer this question, you need to understand the difference between front-end and back-end web development and which programming you need to learn. This is because they use different programming languages. For instance, if you decide to take the front end, which I recommend, here you are looking at programming languages such as HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, CSS, the cascading style sheet, and JavaScript, which are some of the basic languages. Before you start designing your first cool website, it's always important to appreciate a few things. 1. What is web development? 2. The difference between front-end and back-end. And 3. What you will need to design a website. Okay, let's answer the first question. Web development. What really is web development? Web development is the work involved in developing a website for the internet or an intranet. It can usually range from developing a simple static page to a complex web-based internet application. And what's the difference between front-end and back-end? The front-end, also called the client-side programming, is what happens in the browser. It's everything the user sees and interacts with. While the back-end, also called server-side programming, is what happens on the server and the database. It is the technology that works behind the scenes to influence those fancy features users interact with on the client side. What do you need to design a website? To design a website, you will need to have an integrated development environment, IDE, like Visual Studio. This is the application you will use to write your code. And in this tutorial, I'll be using Visual Studio, which is freely available and easy to use. We will also need a browser. This is the application that we'll use to read and translate our code to our language that we can all understand. For this, I'll be using Mozilla Firefox. It is the best web browser for web developers, as it will, among other things, help you to test the responsiveness of your website. By this I mean how your website will behave on various screens. So what this means basically is when it comes to web development, both front-end and back-end are very important. But for a beginner, I will usually recommend that you start with the front-end web development. And after you have a good understanding of this, you can now advance to the back-end development. The front-end programming will give you a basic introduction to web development. And these skills will help you as you undertake your back-end web development. So in this tutorial, and to start with, I will be looking at the client-side programming or the front-end programming using languages like HTML and CSS as well as JavaScript.